When a town becomes a town, as Helena, Montana developed into in 1864, there are a few institutions that always get established. Churches, schools, markets, courthouses, and jails. In Helena's Central District, you can see remnants of these early institutions, and it is known as Courthouse Square. The first courthouse was built in 1867, 3 years after gold was first discovered at a creek that later became known as Last Chance Gulch. The courthouse you see today was rebuilt in 1886 and completed in 1887. Settled next to the courthouse was the county jail. Like the courthouse, the county jail was rebuilt in 1891 on the same site. The building features Romanesque-style architecture with massive stones. The corner tower once had battlements, but were lost in the 1935 earthquake. The county jail was in operation for close to 100 years. In 1985, the county jail was abandoned because a new jail had been built a short distance away on the other side of the courthouse.
We moved out of this facility on my birthday, December 2nd, 1985. Well, okay, we have the dents right here and right down here. And these were caused by a mob that had torn a telegraph pole down from the corner of 6th and Ewing a couple blocks away. And they were after a rapist. And they broke the doors in with that telegraph pole, went in, broke the prisoner out, and took him down to the corner of 6th and Main where they hung him from the cross arm of another telegraph pole. And this is the main entrance of the jail, or was, when we were in operation here. Bill, can you tell me what was when they broke in, what were they after? Okay, when they broke the door down with the telegraph pole, they were after a prisoner that was incarcerated inside. He'd been incarcerated for rape. This is the area that you enter into the facility when we're operational here. The public would come in, the officers bringing prisoners would come in, the jail staff, the office workers, everybody would enter in through here. There used to be a counter going across here, and you would end up with a congregation, a mixed congregation of everybody here that on occasion would really create some excitement for the citizens of the community. The prisoner then would be placed in that one holding cage right there for booking. And the booking all took place right in this area. After he calmed down, if he was wild, he'd be taken out of there and placed in here with other prisoners awaiting their placement on the interior of the facility in the cell block itself. This was the only public reception area that this facility had. It was about a 6-foot by 4-foot wide area with a little bench there. And it wasn't unusual, after you had a prisoner brought in and sat down there, to go over and lift up the covering on the bench and you'd find a pistol or a knife or marijuana, other drugs lying underneath the cushion. It was not really a safe environment. Stairways. This one leads up into what was used for the adult female and juvenile female incarceration quarters, into their cellars. This was kind of an airlock system going into the main cell block. You'd put the officer and the prisoner in here, lock him from this side, and then unlock from that side and proceed on into the cell block itself. This cell block is a walk-around 2-tier cell block that was designed for single cell occupancy, and it would hold 30 prisoners. The bars are iron And in many occasions, we would have escapes by prisoners sawing through the bars or, in fact, breaking the bars. And on this side down here, you'll note that there are some steel plates that have been welded on there, both here and farther down. And the reason for that, one night when I just happened to be on duty, I heard a loud snap when I was out in the dispatch office. And I came and looked down here, and everything looked fine. So I came on in, and the way we used to check the bars to see if they were still intact was we had an old broom handle. And we just run down the side of the cell, wrapping the bars with the broom handle. And lo and behold, one of the bars fell out. An investigation revealed that one of the prisoners, who had been here for some time and had nothing better to do, I guess, except to try and figure out a way to escape, had taken a blanket, strips of his blanket, and formed a loop. And he tied it to the inside wall, made out of lattice work, and then looped it around the bar. And then he would take his broom, run it through the loop, and twist it until it got extremely tight. He'd have another prisoner hold that broom. He'd climb up here and then jump down onto the loop, and it would pop these bars right out. And then he was going to come out and go through a window. Do the same thing with the bars on the outside windows. Another prisoner, in fact, I believe I'll be able to find it for you. There's one, but there's a better one here somewhere. It's been quite a while since here it is. This indentation right here was formed by a prisoner trying to cut the bar. And the way he did it was with a piece of string wet in water and dipped in Ajax. And he'd just loop it around the bar and constantly saw. And you can see how soft the bars were, that he was able to get that far with string and Ajax. The cons used to tell us that 1 year in this facility would be equal to 7 years in what they termed the joint deer lodge. 7 to 1. This window here looks out onto what was then the hanging yard. It's a courtyard out here, and they build their gallows out in this area here. It was not uncommon for the sheriff to appoint an individual that if the trapdoor dropped and the prisoner didn't die right away, the individual the sheriff appointed, it was his job to go in and grab the legs and wrap himself around them to add further weight onto the body to speed up the hanging. Also, and I think you can check with the Historical Society, they may still have some on file, it was more or less a social event in the late 1800s or the early 1900s to have hangings. And invitations would be sent out by the sheriff to selected people, asking them to attend the hanging, and in which they would do so.
How does that strike?
I would not care to ever be the sheriff that had to pull the lever to hang somebody. And then right there along the wall was where we did all the fingerprinting. You can still see the fingerprint ink on the wall. That's our fire extinguisher. Want to go downstairs or back through here?
We can go downstairs.
Okay.
Light down. Hi, Arnold.
All right, this goes down into an area that was used for the attorney visiting with the prisoner, and also we had our photography lab down here, and the rest was pretty much storage except for the real modern pistol range that we had down here. And he would just roam throughout here and do our laundry. We had our laundry set up down here, and all of our blankets and supplies for the prisoners and items of that nature. Back in through here, that's the staff lounge. That was the only toilet we had for the staff. Yeah, that was ours. And right opposite here, this is the photo lab. Geez, I see our enlarger still over here. Old Dessler and Marjorie. Okay, then in here, this was just an interview room. It was the only interview room we had, and the door that's currently off had one-way glass in it, and we also used it for a lineup area. And if you went on through and out, this comes back up into the courtyard outside of the kitchen, in between the boiler room and the kitchen. These little cubby holes down here, we used to store ammunition and weapons, that type of thing. From here, you're now in the section originally was the sheriff's living quarters. This was kind of a sitting room area, and then was converted into the civil office, in which all the civil process from the courts and the attorneys went through here.
I don't remember, was this door always used?
Yes.
When you were here, that was...
Yes,
the main
that
entrance?
was the main entrance, and the public, the officers, and the prisoners would all come through there, oftentimes all at the same time, and it got pretty exciting for the public on occasion.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, usually that door was closed, because we didn't want prisoners coming back into this area. And so the attorneys would also have to go through there and come around and bring in their civil papers, and there were 2 officers in here that did nothing but civil work. Then from here, and also, by the way, these are our inspection panels to check on the prisoners. And later they were converted to visiting. We'd open it. All we had was a hallway here. The wall's gone now, but we had a hallway here, and you'd have to have a deputy stand back here in one of these doors and watch the visitors visiting with the prisoners. Because what they do, just like they did here, they'd break little holes in the glass and pass the drugs through. Yeah.
Did prisoners have rights to see their wives or
Yeah.
like that? Spend the night
Not-
with their wives?
Well, in the 60s and earlier, it wasn't anything like it is now. They had a lot less rights
Right.
than they have now. Sometimes it wouldn't bother me to go back to that either. Give the victim back the rights instead of the prisoner. When I was chief deputy, this was my office, and this was where the investigations all emanated out of. We had all the records, all the criminal records were stored in here, along with the chief deputy. And in those days, there was only 13 of us when I started, and so there was only one investigator, that being me. Then it was converted to a records office in the 70s. And there were 1, 2, 3 women in all the files in here. And you literally had to turn sideways to walk through here. It was so cram-packed full of records and desks. It had been, in the sheriff's living quarters, it was the living room. This was the living room of his living facilities.
And who was the last sheriff to live here?
Sheriff Dave Middleman was the last one to inhabit this as a residence.
And all the sheriffs prior to that had lived in
this facility. Yeah. That was only 2 sheriffs ago.
Was there ever any trouble with the kids in the sheriff's family being hurt by any prisoners or
Oh yeah,
held
yeah.
ransom?
Yeah, they'd break through the walls and come out into their living areas to try to escape. I can't recall any specific stories about it, but I know that it did occur. And the bad thing about it was, maybe it wasn't so bad in those days, although I can't imagine that it wouldn't be, is I have a tough time getting away from this job. And if I had to live in the jail and constantly be surrounded by it, I don't think I'd want the job very bad. You know, it's so stressful to begin with, and I just can't picture raising my family in this environment, you know, with the prisoners all around you and constantly making demands and claims and listening to the noise and the hollering and the screaming and hearing the fights and this type of thing. I wouldn't want to live in that environment. Be pretty tough.
What do you find most rewarding about the job now?
What do I find most rewarding about the job?
Sheriff.
Well, the most rewarding is the fact I'm still alive, I guess. The citizenry, working with the citizenry and enjoying the support that I feel we receive. That's got to be the most enjoyable thing. There are, there's a lot of ups and downs in law enforcement, but it seems like when you're at your lowest, when things are at their worst, something happens to come along to bring you up. I don't know if it's a good Lord up there looking out for our mental stability or what, but maybe you'll get a call of a lost child that could be dead, and then you find her or him, and it just gives you an uplifting, or you get a letter from the citizens that are giving you a clap on the back. It always seems to happen that way. Just about the time you're ready to throw up your hands and say to hell with it, something happens to give you that boost. This area, this is where the sheriff and his family entered this facility, and this was more of just a cloakroom type area. They used to have hanging racks in here for their clothes. And the stairs, obviously, they went upstairs to the sleeping quarters. And straight back through this door was the sheriff's office. And this remained the sheriff's office up until 1976, in which it was moved upstairs. This is the area that earlier I told you the prisoners had broken out of it and came in here and found all the weapons in a cabinet but didn't take any and went back to make their plans. This is where that was. And then this was the kitchen. I always found it kind of interesting that the sewer pipes ran overhead in the kitchen area. The boiler room. And this is the area behind those doors is where the undersheriff was killed back in either the late 1800s or the early 1900s. And that's the two windows that I was pointing at from inside that I said that the escape plan was that the prisoner was to come out here, the undersheriff would be back behind those doors, and the sheriff would be back behind this door, and they'd catch the prisoner in a crossfire. Well, the only one killed was the undersheriff. And that did raise a lot of doubts. I don't recall if the bullet hole is still over there or not. Appears it is, yes. There's your bullet hole.
So what did the prisoners do out here? And also out there? Did they exercise out?
No, they never got out here.
They never got out here?
No. As I was saying inside when we went through, the only thing, I don't care if they were here 10 minutes or 2 years, the only thing they did was live in their cells and pace, or they could do push-ups, or they could shower, or they could play cards, or they could watch TV. And that was it.
Where did they watch TV?
We had TVs hung in the central corridors in each of the tiers in there. And that was it. That's all they could do. Or fight.
Was there like a curfew? I mean, like, did all lights go out at a certain
Oh, yeah.
time?
Yeah. 10 o'clock on weekdays and midnight on weekends. And then everything came on again at 6 a.m. Of course, you had to leave the exterior lights on around the cell block so you could do your checks at night and make sure nobody was trying to escape. Upstairs in the attic, we literally had about a foot.
After a few years of the county jail sitting vacant, a group of motivated individuals decided they could do something wonderful with the medieval-looking building. Their thoughts were of transforming the space that once was filled with sullen humans in a dark time could become a place of conversation, music, movies, entertainers, and art that would fill the rooms with laughter and thought.
What did you think of that?
It's a big one.
Is it?
Yeah.
How about if you were in there? You think you could get out easy?
No.
Do you think it'll be better as a theater than as a jail? How come?
Because It won't capture anybody.
Might capture your heart,
No, it won't.
won't it?
It's gonna be a theater. It's gonna be the cinema, Second Story Cinema.
A local film society called Second Story Cinema embarked on this grand transformation, and they would name the new center the Myrna Loy, after a successful movie actress that grew up in Helena. The building required extensive renovations. This video, provided by Martin and Susie Holt, some of the many volunteers that worked tirelessly transforming the space, recorded the process.
Loy Theater, as it will be known, is now under construction, but for those people responsible for its creation, the fundraising effort is not over yet. After years of fundraising, Arnie Molina can actually begin to see his dream physically take shape, albeit slowly. That dream is the Myrna Loy Theater, a multi-arts facility that will bring people to a place that once entertained Helena's less credible citizens.
The construction is starting. That brings it into a whole new level of reality. When you raise money for such a long time, it seems like nothing's happening. You know, what are you raising the money for? And so it's nice to see it beginning finally.
The original estimate to convert the old county jail into a theater was $1.3 million, an amount already reached, but still just a little short.
We need to raise an additional total of about $230,000. We need $140 to open the building, and we need another $90 to really do it like we planned, you know, the finishing touches. And
it may be hard to believe, but it's hoped that by October of next year, what used to be the county jail will soon be seating 200 people in front of a 40-foot wide stage. The extra costs are attributed to making the building earthquake safe, but the contractors say a fall opening is the plan, and barring any unforeseen problems, that's when it will be.
Within a couple of weeks, they'll actually begin setting foundations for the stage and dressing room area at the back of the old jail. And from there, then it's just a certain amount of building and a certain amount of remodeling, really.
The outside of the building that resembles a medieval castle will remain the same, but the inside will be transformed into a full facility for the performing arts. Second-story cinema will also move into the building, also including some workshops and a conference room. But in the meantime, as the bricks and rubble are removed piece by piece, the fundraising effort on a local, state, and national level will continue. And as Auntie Melina has been saying since the project first got off the ground, all contributions are gratefully accepted.
The basement that once contained solitary confinement cells, a pistol firing range, and an oven that baked bread for the prisoners is now a common area and where the restrooms are located. The holding cells were double-decker cells. And today, it is the auditorium. An addition was constructed for a stage and a backstage area.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a full house at the Myrna.
The jail cells for the women went up a set of narrow steps, and that area is now office space. The entry and the booking area for the prisoners is in the front of the building, which was converted into the jailhouse art gallery. The Myrna opened their doors in 1991.
About 5 years ago, this place was a Lewis and Clark County jail. And where you are seated right now, there were double-decker jail cells with hundreds of prisoners in them. Now you are seated in theater seats, waiting for some beautiful music of the Americas, of many heritages. And we're very thrilled to have you sitting in these seats tonight.
The handsome stone building with bars on the windows remind the passerby of its original use. The exterior has been left intact, showcasing its history, while on the inside a complete transformation occurred so that artists and entertainers could share their talents with the community. The Myrna fills this space with dance, music, and spoken word, bringing the arts to rural Montana. The Myrna has been going strong for decades. It is considered one of the best small arts centers in the West. The Myrna describes themselves by their mission statement as written on their website. The Myrna inspires the creative spirits of people in and around Helena by presenting high-quality, cultural significant films and performing arts, by supporting local and regional artists in their work, and by nurturing a lifelong love of the arts through education and residencies. And just like the slogan used by the Myrna, Art transforms everything, even old jails, into something bright.